Hello everybody and welcome to Tree Doctors. I'm your host John Passmore, and we're beginning today's program in the Clover Bend community. This is the historic Clover Bend School. They're restoring it now. That's going to be a good project when that's all done. I'm going to be joining Ed Dickey in just a few minutes, and we're going to take a look at some trees and give you some tips on how to take care of your trees on Tree Doctors. It all begins right after this message.
The tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject a zap back in your tree's sap. Research has showed that ice-damaged trees are stressed, and stressed trees lead to insect and disease attacks. Micro tree injection is the answer for your trees. Micro tree injection is a closed system, delivering the exact dose of systemic chemical directly to the sap stream of the tree. Once the problem is identified, the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject vitamins, minerals, or insecticide directly into the sap stream of your trees. This bypasses the roots and provides immediate results. Micro tree injection has been university tested and field proven for over 35 years. After the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service treats your trees, you receive a written 1-year guarantee. We won't treat a tree we don't think we can help. Let the tree doctors at Dickey Tree Service put the zap back in your tree's sap. It's been 7 years now since we at Dickey Tree Service first treated this large old pecan tree behind me. At the time of treatment, the tree had stopped producing and really looked sick. Now the tree is healthy and producing nuts each year. At the owner's request, we're giving it a second application, a multi-nutrient, to keep it looking healthy for years to come. We at Dickey Tree Service care about your trees. So give us a call. The Tree Doctors, Dickey Tree Service. Hello, I'm Ed Dickey, the tree doctor at Dickey Tree Service. I'm coming to you from inside of a tree. We've been getting inside of trees for 35 years. We get to the root of the problem. Give us a call. We know how to save your trees. We put the chemical where it needs to be, inside your tree, taking care of insect and disease problems. We're often imitated, but never duplicated. We've been doing this 35 years. We know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the tree doctors, Dickey Tree Service.
This is a perfect example of people preserving their buildings as well as their trees. Speaking of trees, let's go catch up with Ed Dickey, the tree doctor.
We're here at Clover Bend Cemetery, where one of those recent winds we had split this big old oak tree. It's an old oak tree, probably dates back to pretty well when they started the cemetery here. It's an old cemetery, and the people who have the family plots here, Stan Jones, he employed us to take care of this problem. And what we'll be doing later is bringing we'll actually bring a wrecker in with a winch truck and winch this back together. After he contacted our firm, I put a temporary come along and cable up there so it wouldn't bust any further. And what we'll be doing is putting 3 or 4 of these 1-inch bracing rods all the way through this tree, pulling it back together, and you'll be able to see a little bit later on how it looks after we do that. But this is how it looks now, and you can see if something's not done real rapidly, this tree's going to go on over, and they might as well cut it down. Be of no good to anyone. But that's what we do. We preserve old trees, and we help you save them. So you'll be able to see a little of that as the show goes on. Over the years, I've had numerous calls about these gumballs, and I guess that's more complaints we get than anything from people wanting to get rid of the gumballs. And several years ago, we worked with a firm on an injection to treat these so the tree could be treated, and the product is actually on the market now. And it's fairly successful, but it didn't get the type of results that we wanted for the tree. And it was quite expensive for the homeowner because it was something they had to do every year, year in and year out. And so we chose not to put it in our arsenal of supplies that we use. This homeowner here, beautiful shaded backyard, and nice swimming pool, but he's got to contend with the gumballs. But if you'll weigh it all out in your mind, the gum tree is a fairly resilient tree as far as insects and stuff, and you don't have too much problem out of a sweet gum tree other than the gumball. So you're not having to treat it for the boring insects and the other leaf eaters and stuff like you do the oaks and stuff. So if you'll just remember that that's all you got to deal with, them few gumballs, it might make it just a little easier. Even though we do hear a lot of complaints about the gumballs. But until the product gets down there where it's affordable for the people, our firm won't endorse that. I don't believe you'd be happy with it, because we sure wouldn't, the expense of it. And we pass that all on to you, and that's what we look out for, the good of the tree, as well as our customer. I'm here in historic Portia in a city park. This is where the hills of Arkansas starts flattening out, right here on the Black River. It's right in between Hoxie and in Bowdoin. And here with me is the mayor, Dale Freeman, here. And this is not your first time to be mayor here, this historic town, is it, Dale?
No, sir. I was the mayor from 78 for about 10 or 12 years, 1978 on. And I've came back now and been the mayor about 3 years.
Yes, sir. The reason I'm here, this lightning-struck tree in the background got my attention, and I guess you know a long history of this park.
Yes, sir. You know, by me being the mayor over the years, we've tried to maintain the park. We've done a decent job, except from just lightning and other things that's caused our park to lose several trees.
Right. Well, this is a historic town, and it dates back to, I'm sure, the early 1900s. This building immediately behind us here, the cameraman might scan over there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's the original school that they had in Portia several years ago, and when the school moved to Black Rock, we inherited, the city inherited the ground and the school, and the building was built in 1914, but in the 80s we got a $220,000 grant to restore the building. We're using it for a city hall and community building now.
Right. Well, I know you have a lot of great community activities out here, and the Portia, I think the fair, is that what y'all have every year?
Yes, sir. We have been going on, this was the 98th one this year. Been going on in Portia for 98 years.
Not too many towns can say that for 98 years, the same spot, and I guess in this, well, up till now, underneath these same trees.
Yes, that's right. These trees have been here as long as I've been here. I'm not 98, but they're old.
You know, the play equipment underneath the city parks and the towns play an important part on how the people use it and utilize the park and the trees. And the mayor here in Portia, Dale Freeman, he's going to tell a little bit about the story about some of this park equipment.
Well, Ed, this park equipment we've been looking at here is probably 20 or 25 years old. We had a boy from Black Rock, or from Portia community. We go to school at Black Rock, wanted to make an Eagle Scout, and he needed a project to get him on his way, and we let him paint this equipment, and him and his family and other families came in here and made this equipment look like brand new.
I mean, it sure does, and it's something the kids can enjoy and makes your park more usable and pleasing to the eye, to the public. And people need to utilize their parks more, and y'all really take advantage of this old historic park here in Portia.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people in our community that's interested in the park and that try to do things to help the park benefit.
Right, and more communities need that. I think parks are a great place to release some of that energy and to enjoy. And thanks again for talking about your parks.
You bet, Ed. Thank you.
I want to give you a little tip here about pine needles. They make excellent mulch. In fact, in North Carolina, they bale this stuff and they sell it to the homeowners. It's quite expensive, matter of fact. Here in Arkansas, we have abundance of pine trees, so needless to say, we got a lot of pine needles. You can, if they're correctly done and treated correctly, they make excellent mulch. They cut down on your grass and they hold your moisture. That don't mean to put them too deep, but it helps insulate your smaller, younger trees from the roots freezing in the winter. It also, like I said, cuts down on the vegetation and just makes for a more nice looking yard. The needles lay very good once they're in place. You don't have trouble with them going anywhere, and you won't have too much of an insect problem like you would with wood chips and stuff like that by using pine needles. Just give pine needles a try. I think you'll like them. I'm here in Lauriestown with at the home of Clark and Geraldine Gatewood, and I want to ask Clark a little bit. Tell us a little bit about this historic community here, Clark.
Well, this is one of the second towns in the state of Arkansas. It was first white settlers came here back in 1803, and believe it or not, one of the first ones was named John the Baptist. It's in history book. But anyway, this is an old steamboat landing out here at my boat ramp, and all I can tell you that there used to be a town here that Alice French, writer, said that there was a bunch of log houses on this ridge that was all different colors, and she went into the explain why. All the paint that come in on the steamboats was different colors. They just had so many colors this, so many colors that, so that's how all the old log homes ended up being different colors. And there's a lot I could say, but I can't think of it right now.
Well, I'll try to help you a little bit, Clark. In my memory, there used to be a ferry landing here, right here on your boat ramp. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when I first moved here, there was an old A-frame hand-cranked winch that they used to pull a ferry across right here from people from over at Powhatan and Lynn, and everybody delivered cotton over here to John K. Gibson's gin at the new Lauriestown. This is the old Lauriestown. But anyway, that was what the ferry was all about.
Did they was there a fee on the ferry, or was that run by the state, or you remember that?
All I know, I believe it was a kind of a tow ferry. Just the individual run.
And when the bridge come through, that closed the ferry down pretty much, didn't it? This old log home you got here, you've restored it wonderfully, and it's a beautiful two-story log home that you keep in great shape, and you got some good-looking trees around here too, Clark, some old trees.
Yes, I do.
And I can see you take good care of those too. That's our main theme of our show, is the family tree, and a little bit of history, and I appreciate you taking a minute to talk about your nice place you have here. Miss Gatewood, tell us a little bit about some of the history you know about this community and this place here.
Well, they do a lot of shelling in this area, and they do a lot of spoonbill fishing, and they sell the eggs for caviar. And that's about all I got to say.
Yeah, that's eating on high on the hog, ain't it? Yeah. And you said the shelling, that's where they, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, they usually take divers or crowfeet, and they usually drag the river and get them and bull them out and sort them and gauge them and take them to market.
And that's been going on for a long time, hasn't it?
Yes.
Miss Gatewood was telling us a little earlier about some shelling that went on here on the Black River, and I'm here with Clark, and there's some shelling going on right here behind me. Tell me a little bit about what's going on here, Clark.
Okay, there's a guy here that lives right here on the river, and that's what he does for a living, is shell and fishes. And this is the old way of making a living back in the 1800s, but it still exists. These shells is sold in Japan, and what happens, they drill chunks, little round button-like things out of them, and put them in oysters and clams to take and develop cultured pearls. So that makes them pretty valuable. I have here in my hand a bloofer that they make all kinds of pretty stuff out of. It's real pretty pink and red and blue, and they use that for a lot of decorations. So anyway, this is the old original way that the first people that came here, it used to take and pick these out of the river and take them to Black Rock and sell them to make buttons with. And this thing is still going on, and people can make a living at it. About all I can say about it is there's all kinds of shells here, and some of them he can't take out of the river because they're on an endangered species. So anyway, that's all really I know about it. But I know they've been doing this thing for probably 150 years around here.
Right, and you mentioned that the button factory, it used to employ a lot of people. A lot of people depended on their livelihood in this area years ago to to make a living doing that, swimming in there, diving down, getting the clams, or working at the pearl factory, the button factory, either one.
Yes, that's true.
Well, I'm glad to see it's still being carried on and rightly placed too, an old historic site like yours, Clark. And I want to thank you for explaining that to our viewers. Clark's got a neat little boat ramp here. It leads you into the river, but he's also got this cool sign. It's a bicentennial sign for the state of Arkansas. You notice it's 1 of 1 on the top, so there's not too many of them scattered around, needless to say. And he's erected here by his boat ramp. And it shows the bicentennial from 1886. And it went up, I think, to 1936 by the historic Arkansas Historic Society made this. So Clark managed to get his hands on it and erected here by the boat ramp because this whole place here is kind of historic. The Lorrytown community and Black River, there's a lot of history here. He takes great pride in his place here and takes great care of his trees, and that's why we're here, for the trees. But I thought you might get a kick out of seeing the sign and the landing that Clark's erected here. Mr. Gatewood, what extra stuff did you do on this apple tree to have it loaded down like you got it loaded down?
Well, back in the spring, I just took and sprayed it one time and was aiming to spray it twice, and because the apples on it so sweet and good. But I just sprayed it one time with just regular fruit spray that you buy up at Farm Service. So if I had took care of it a little better, it'd probably be a lot better.
Well, you got a pretty good crop going on there, so you give a tree a little care, it pays you back, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Everybody around's had apple off that tree that wants them.
As you can see, we hadn't talked about it much, but a little bit in the program, but this is soil injection. This is where we can put the vitamins and minerals and enzymes directly into the root system to enhance the feeder root's growth, and so the tree will respond and take the other chemicals that we maybe trunk inject or spray or whatever. It has its place, and soil injection is, if it's done properly, is quite unique. It's long-lasting, and if you got the right products going in there, which we do, then you will see astounding results, and we have over the years. And we've got a lot of cutting-edge chemicals that we use that's distributed systemically through the soils, as well as, trunk injection also. So it just shows you a little bit more about how we do the soil injection. The reason why I'm bringing this up is a lot of times you have the very small trees. It's actually too small for us to trunk inject systemically. In that case, they're ideal candidates for the soil injection. And they will respond just as rapidly as they would with trunk injection, and except with a limited growth, you don't have the sporadic growth. It's a slow, steady growth, and that's what you want. You don't want a fertilizer sprout up growth on these young trees. They can't stand it. You do more damage than good. So with the right product and the right person doing it, you can make great strides with these small trees, especially ones that's yellowing and you're having a problem with. Another little tip for you. This is what most homeowners, if they got trees growing near their house, should have one of these around. They're quite inexpensive. They're called a pruning pole. They're extendable. You just pull it out. It locks into place. It'll cut a pretty good sized limb. And when you have branches starting to grow against your roof and side of your house, instead of waiting until they get big and have to pay a lot of money to tree trimming firms, just take that little pruning pole on a cool day and reach up and cut them boogers off. It just takes a few minutes. Put it back up in your storeroom with your other clippers, and that way you're not on a ladder breaking your neck trying to cut them limbs off. It'll reach up 12, 15 feet. Save you a lot of expense in the future. They're available at most your home supply stores and your rigs and places like that. Check it out. It's called a pruning pole.
I want to remind you that you can join our show every Saturday and Sunday at 6 o'clock right here on KAIT. And we'll be back with more tips on how to take care of your trees right after these messages.
It's not hard to see what killed these trees. It was borer worms. The borer is a hard insect to control. virtually untouched with spraying and other applications. But with systemic injection, when the borer eats the tree, the borer dies. Trees are dying all over, but we've got the cure. We give a 1-year guarantee when we treat your trees for the borers. We've been doing this 35 years and we know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the Tree Doctors, Dickey Tree Service, in your yellow pages under trees. The Tree Doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject a zap back in your tree's sap. Research has showed that ice-damaged trees are stressed, and stressed trees lead to insect and disease attack. Micro tree injection is the answer for your trees. Micro tree injection is a closed system, delivering the exact dose of systemic chemical directly to the sap stream of the tree. Once the problem is identified, the Tree Doctors at Dickey Tree Service can inject vitamins, minerals, or insecticide directly into the sap stream of your trees. This bypasses the roots and provides immediate results. Micro tree injection has been university tested and field proven for over 35 years. After the Tree Doctors at Dickey Tree Service treats your trees, you receive a written 1-year guarantee. We won't treat a tree we don't think we can help. Let the Tree Doctors at Dickey Tree Service put the zap back in your tree's sap.
Let's join Ed Dickey as we take a look at some trees and get some tips on how you can take care of your trees right now on Tree Doctors.
You know, we get a lot of calls about fruit trees, and people want to know how they can have good fruit and stuff. And a tip that I'll pass on to you, your local county agent in wherever your area is, you can go to your extension office and they'll load you up with some free brochures and stuff that tells you the right way to properly take care of a fruit tree in your area. They've even got some booklets on the correct way to prune it when it's dormant, and shows you pictures how to do it. And it's not difficult to have a good fruit tree. It requires a little bit of care. It also gives some brochures that shows you the correct amount of sprays that it requires to have the fruit. And so a lot of people will tell you that this area can't grow this or this can't grow that. Well, look around. If somebody's growing it, they probably prove somebody wrong. So if you give a tree or a plant a little bit of care, you can do pretty well great things. But if you'll follow the guidelines that you get from your county agent or your extension office, it will further enhance what you're doing. And there's nothing nicer than going out in your yard and getting something that you've growing on your tree, and it just seems to taste better. I've given you a few tips before about pulling your trees up out of your flower bed around your foundation and stuff, and this homeowner here had this little pine come up here and neglected to pull it up, and now it's at the point where it's actually trying to grow through the roof. And he's got a situation going on here where he's going to either have to attempt to dig this up, which is going to be difficult now, or cut it off and start again. And that's a decision only he can make, but it's pretty tough when there's that big a plant growing next to your foundation. They just waited too long. Well, we got us a lead line in place, and Ray J's going to bring his big wrecker up here. We're going to hook to it, and we're going to attempt to pull this big old oak tree back together so we can put our bracing rods in. And the reason I said attempt, we're not always successful. Biggest part of the time we are, but always something could happen. But we're going to attempt it, and y'all going to get to see it happen.
Daddy phoned to tell us that old tree might have to come down. The one I had the tree house in and chased my wife around. He said a neighbor showed him where it was busting at the trunk. And if the snow got heavy, it could crack down to the stump. We got to save our family tree. It's such a big part of our history. What a nostalgic sight to see. We got to save our family tree.
As you can see, we have the wing sliders attached, and Ray J's tightening up the wrecker, and we're starting to pull the tree back together. You'll be able to watch it. It slowly comes back together just like it went apart.
Grandpa said they planted it when he was just 8 years old. His mama kept the clods broke up while his daddy dug the hole. I phoned up a friend of mine that lives in our hometown. He said he knew a tree doctor didn't like to cut trees down. The man went out and checked our tree and bolted it back together. He said it would last a lifetime, no matter what the weather. We got to save our family tree. It's such a big part of our history. What a nostalgic sight to see. We got to save our family tree. Yes, we got to save our family tree.
As you can see, we got this large old tree pulled back together. Thanks with the help of Ray J. Kane here, Ray J's Record Service. And Ray J, how many years you been doing record service?
About on my own 12.
Have you ever had to pull a tree together for anybody?
No, never have. It's the first time. It's pretty interesting too.
We sure got her back together, didn't we? And it took all that big record to do it, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did. I tell you what, it was a learning experience. You know, first time I ever done it, it was something to do, different.
Right, and I appreciate you helping me with it. And so, folks, if you got a record problem, there's nobody better than Ray J, or if you got a tree pulled together, Ray J knows how to now. Here we had what once was a beautiful old oak tree. It measures a little better than 12 foot around, and lightning just hit it. It's too bad to be saved. This tree is going to have to be removed. You can see it busted all the way through. What happens when lightning hits it? It actually cooks the sap inside the tree, causes an explosion, and it blows the bark off the tree and busts it. A lightning arrestor would have saved this tree. It took a lot of years to get to where it is now, and just in a blink of an eye, you lose it. But we can't help this one. That's what lightning does.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Tree Doctors. Remember, we're on KAIT every Saturday and Sunday morning at 6 o'clock, so join us next time if you get a chance. We appreciate you joining us. If you have any questions, you can email Dickey at dickeytree.com. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time right here on Tree Doctors.